The Midwest supporting, bruiser loving, positivity spreading, world's most dangerous podcast. Join former pro wrestler and promoter Dave Dynasty as he supports and promotes Midwest pro wrestling. Keep on growing with the Midwest Express. This is the Dave Dynasty Show.
And welcome to the Dave Dynasty Show. I am your host, Dave Dynasty. Thank you for joining us again this week on the world's most dangerous podcast, the only podcast supporting Midwest pro wrestling, past and present. I am your host for the festivities today, and we have a great show for you. Now, we appreciate you joining us however you do, whether it be on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, or any of the other podcast platforms we're available on. We're glad you're with us. And hey, if you are joining us on iTunes, that's your method for listening to us, please make sure you rate and review us. That helps us in our exposure there. And in all your other fashions of following us, make sure you subscribe, follow, like, share, etc., etc. You can find us on social media at davedynasty.com. Everything is through there. All the links to all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of those, along with our Pro Wrestling Tees link, our Amazon.com affiliate link, highspots.com affiliate link. It's all there. Just go to davedynasty.com. You can find everything you want right there. That is your center of the hub, in the Dave Dynasty Show world. I'm excited for this show. It's a fun one. And I think you're going to enjoy it tremendously. So we're going to get kicked off. I'm going to talk. If you join us on YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube, which you should. We have lots of content there, including regularly the episodes of the show. But I also put a lot of other stuff, a lot of wrestling, Midwest wrestling, other wrestlings out of my collection. And then we link up some matches and files and things, that tie into the show each week. We have, our guest this week is Cody Hawk. We have a playlist on YouTube that says current show videos, and you'll find some matches of Cody's there. So as you listen to the interview and you want to go check out a little more Cody Hawk, go to our YouTube channel, hit that playlist, and you can watch the man in action. But also on that playlist, you will find a match, a classic Midwest match that we cover on each show a little bit. And I'm not going to go into detail on the show. It's just kind of to give you an introduction to something that maybe you haven't seen before. And our match today is from 2004, the NWF in Cincinnati, Ohio, and it is Chad Allegra against the American Eagle. Now, Chad Allegra, I have been a huge fan of Chad Allegra for many, many years, since back in these days, and I'm still a huge fan of Chad. And some of you maybe are a little more aware of him now because he competes now in the WWE as Carl Anderson. But he's from Cincinnati area. Got his start there along with John Moxley, Dean Ambrose, etc., etc. There are a lot of great talent has come through that region. And this is a fun match, with Allegra, and the American Eagle. The video starts, I think it gives a little backstory. Shows some clips, everything. I think it's at the Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen, obviously a nod to the Eagle. But it's a cool match, and you can see a young Carl Anderson here as Chad Allegra. And you can see it, man. You can see that all that fire and those tools that have gotten him where he is, a huge star in Japan and a huge star now in the WWE. And like I said, I've been a huge fan of his, since back in those days. Being in the Midwest, everybody, if you followed wrestling, you knew who Chad Allegra was, over in that area of Ohio. And, I'm glad he's where he's at now. Very cool. A guy that I'd love to have on the show. I'm plugging away. I'm trying to make some contact there. I think it'd be completely amazing to have him on the show. So go check that match out. There is a link in the show notes if you want to get to it that way. But like I said, otherwise you can go to that playlist on YouTube, and see it from there. Now we, or do kind of our next little clip we like to do. We like to introduce you to some classic Midwest wrestling audio. And this could be lots of different things, but again, it's something to put your ears on something that maybe you haven't heard before, maybe somebody you haven't heard before or heard of or heard a lot of before. And the goal here is to get a little exposure. That's kind of the whole goal of the Dave Dynasty Show is we're wanting to get eyes and ears and attention on Midwest wrestling. There's such a huge history, and there's such a huge scene now, and people are really starting to see it now. Guys that we've known for a long time, how talented and what they have to offer, are really getting a lot of attention. But I like to do these audio clips because some of them, it's so cool to hear these guys and hear them in this fashion. And we have an audio clip now. It's an old WWA audio clip, from Jack and Frank Dillinger. Gosh, excuse me. Otherwise known to you all as the Chain Gang. And the Chain Gang they were a phenomenal team. They were exciting. They drew everywhere they went. Their battles with Bruiser and Crusher, which they talk a little bit about in this audio clip, are amazing. And as wild as they were, they had this biker Hell's Angels like gimmick, which ended up, getting them into a lot of trouble in the end. Cause you didn't do that, right? You didn't wear, the insignias, etc. of the Hell's Angels and not be in the Hell's Angels. Look them up, look the Chain Gang up, look up the Dillingers, and hear that story of what happened there. I'm not going to retell it all here. I'm contemplating doing a whole episode on the Chain Gang sometime and discussing them. So we'll go into it there, but look it up. There's plenty of articles and things out there about it. But this audio clip shows they were wild and they were crazy and unpredictable. And even in the promos, any of the unwritten rules that you supposedly should follow when cutting an interview or doing a promo or whatever you want to call it, they ignore, right? They're both talking at the same time. They're talking over each other. They're just all over the place. They're crazy. They don't hit a lot of points, that most, you have to hit. And that is them, right? That was the gimmick. That was their image. And it's great stuff. So, let's listen to that clip here from 1966. Jack and Frank Dillinger, the Chain Gang.
We heard that we look pretty bad. No, sir. You should see the men that we wrestled, the Crusher and the Bruiser. You should see them. Listen, we're used to looking like this.
So bad,
this don't bother us at all. They're finished and they're done. In fact, we would like to have another match with them, right? We're not afraid of them.
Because we
heard
lose,
the comment
as far
made.
as we're concerned, and
How
as far as all righteous people are concerned,
four toughies the way we can within 7 or 8 days? You know what we do?
Now we're heading
we fight 24 hours a day, not only in the ring, everywhere we go.
Fought all our
Nobody
lives.
stops us.
Nobody
stops us.
We are the
kicked in the head,
kicked in the
know how to do it.
Till we got to
Because
where we could do it,
winners.
and now we do it.
Why are we winners?
That's what we
because
do.
we're the greatest
Right.
cheaters there are. There's only
That's
one
right.
way to get
Why
ahead
are
in
we
this
winners?
business.
Why
It's
are we
because
winners?
we are
We
cheating.
cheat.
And that's
Right.
the only way to get ahead is to cheat. Now, we got this so-called, what's our main laughter? Oh, I can't think of his name right off the head.
Snyder.
Oh.
Snyder. And,
there is a big round joke.
Pat O'Connor.
Pat O'Connor. Ex-champions. Right? That's another big... These guys don't have a chance against us. How can they possibly think they can stop an iron horse like us? Because we have
We've got the momentum behind us, right?
Just dropped
We've got
two of the
momentum.
toughest, and so we step up for two more.
It's just like
There's
a big
no
bulldozer.
No way in the world
rolling
can
over
they
like
do
one
it.
of those other big things. What do you call them?
Crane?
No, the
tank?
You're welcome.
That's what's going to happen to them.
That's what's going to happen to them. They're going to be dead.
And that's
They're going to be run over.
But before we finish up our fight interview, I want to say one thing.
Go ahead, say a word or two.
Hammond, I want to mention one word.
Yeah, mention what word?
Wilbur's. That is the biggest joke. We destroyed him right there in the town of Hammond.
Right, we
and he wants to come back
to the hospital.
Now he's back.
Is he off his crutches
You
yet?
can't hurt us.
He's
You
off
can
his crutches, I guess, and he's ready for it
Nobody
again.
can stop him.
And there you have it. That classic Midwest audio with the Chain Gang. Great, great stuff. Go look them up. There are a few matches out there, a few things out there with them. Go check those out. Like I said, we're thinking about possibly doing kind of a biographical type episode of the Dave Dynasty Show in the future and discuss those guys. So we'll see where that goes. We did do a fan poll. wanted to hear who maybe you wanted to see. The Chain Gang Warriors a choice. They had a good following there. But the winner of the poll was the Great Wojo. So I think in the future we'll do an episode on the Great Wojo. And we might do that as a Graham's Gallery episode because nobody knows Wojo better than Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. So we'll see where that goes. I just wanted to get a feel for what you guys wanted to hear there as far as like we said, a biographical type episode. And it's cool. I'm a huge fan of the Great Wojo. Don't think he gets enough attention, as he should. So, I'm very cool that he won that. And, we'll see what we're going to do with that. We'll see where that goes. I'm intrigued by that. So, but right now, let's take a break. And when we come back, we will have a new segment here on the Dave Dynasty Show. A new thing we're going to do each week. Kind of some tales from the road. Some tales from some of the shows here in the Midwest from a guy that's out there doing it every weekend, but doing it a little differently because this guy's not a wrestler. This guy is a referee. That's right. It's a new segment that we call The Official's Decision with referee Manbun, and the debut episode of that segment will be right after this break, so stick around.
1, 2, 3.
It's my man bun.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the debut episode of The Official's Decision with referee Manbun. I, of course, am referee Manbun, also known as referee Sean O'Brien. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Big shout out to Dave Dynasty and the crew over at the Dave Dynasty Show for giving me this platform to spread awareness of the awesome promotions that I work for. I work for some really, really cool promotions, guys, who are doing some really special things right now, which, of course, you'll find out more about through the weeks. This week, we are covering IWA Mid-South because that was the only 2 shows that I worked this week. Thursday and Friday, we had 2 IWA shows. Any kind of feedback, positive or negative, please let me know. Hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever. DM me. Let me know what you think, good or bad. And take any kind of criticism. And of course, I love positive feedback. Everybody does. So please hit me up. Let me know what you think and what I can do better or what I can do worse. And I will make the proper adjustments. And let's roll right on into it. On Thursday, we had it was the 800th IWA Mid-South show, which is a pretty crazy accomplishment all in itself. 800 shows. There's not very many companies that say that they have accomplished that, especially considering the talent that has came through IWA Mid-South at some point and the talent that IWA still brings in. A lot of current WWE guys have came through IWA at some point or, made their stock rise even more through IWA by coming to IWA on a regular basis. So being a part of the 800 show and being a part of history, pretty special, pretty cool to be a part of that. Your referees for the evening was myself and William Witt. We started off the show with Mance Warner. He just kind of wanted to talk to the people a little bit and thank them for their support. Yeah, he made a short, small speech and thanked the crowd for their unwavering support. Let him know that, we did it, that he's a fighting champion. It was a pretty special moment. However, it was ruined pretty quickly by the big, bad, nasty Calvin Tankman. Calvin Tankman is just a big, mean dude who has a terrible attitude, cusses at the fan. He's just a terrible person. There was really no justification for it, even though Tankman felt he had justification. From what I'm hearing in the locker room, Tankman was upset that he was not in the championship tournament the week before. So he decided to take it out on the winner of the tournament and take Mance out. Of course, the main event was supposed to be Jake Christ against Mance Warner in his first title defense. However, Ian deemed Mance unable to compete. I mean, Tankman really messed him up. Tankman tore up his arm, hit him over the head with a chair way too many times. Mance was covered in blood from head to toe. It was no good. And Tankman he's a coward for that move. So going forward, we also had a Pick Your Poison match, and that was won by the unfortunate pairing of Eye Candy Elliott and Pat Monix. They beat Hysteria, Cole Radrick, and Sage Phillips. And the poison that they picked, they smartened up to some kind of knowledge that Homicide would not be in the area. Therefore, Calvin would not have a partner. However, the unfortunate pairing didn't think that that was all that important because they decided to put themselves in a 2-on-1 handicap match against Calvin Tankman for the IWA Mid-South Tag Team Champions, to take place on Friday. Let's see. We also had a qualifying match for the Prince of the Death match between JC Rotten and the Amazing Maria. It ended in a draw after a big superplex off the top rope into a double pin. And Ian came out, said nobody wins and nobody makes it in. JC was not happy, as was Maria. JC requested that on February 1st, they have a rematch. For those who are unaware, on February 1st, IWA Mid-South will be making their Powerbomb.tv debut. It's the first time ever that IWA Mid-South will be streamed live from the IWA Arena. And one of the matches that we will be seeing that night is a rematch between JC Rotten and the Amazing Maria. However, Ian decided to up the ante a little bit and said, how about we do a Taipei death match? And if you don't know what a Taipei death match is, you gotta look it up. A Taipei death match involves a lot of glass and some hard-hitting fists. Well, another key match for the evening. On Thursday, we had Chase Holiday going up one-on-one against Shane Bender. Shane Bender, of course, just has had a terrible attitude as of recent, getting involved in all of his former training partners' matches just to let them know that he is better than them. Chase Holiday wasn't having it. He asked Ian for this match, and Ian gave it to him. So it was Shane Bender against Chase Holiday in a no-holds-barred, no DQ match. Even though Chase beat him pretty good with a crutch, Shane Bender still got the W. Another key match of the night, Sugar Dunkerton was able to defeat Calvin Tankman. Sugar Dunkerton keeps the win streak alive. And then we can roll on into our main event. And the main event of the evening was supposed to be Jake Chris in a three-way dance against Michael Elgin and Myron Reed. But all of a sudden, Mance Warner's music plays. And out barely comes Mance Warner, holding the bad shoulder, still got dried blood on all over his face. He was insisting on fighting, no matter how much pleading myself or Ian or even Jake did. He wanted to do it. He really wanted to defend that title in front of the fans for the 800th show. So we had a match. Jake hitting him in the backslide and got the 1, 2, 3. And on your 800th show, your new IWA World Champion, Jake Christ. And then, of course, we had one more match after that. Michael Elgin went one-on-one with Myron Reed. But these two have, I want to say this is their second or third match. These two, anytime they're in the ring together, they tear it up. Definitely recommend watching it when it drops. I know I will be. Yeah, let's go right on into Friday's show. Just going to go over a couple key matches. One match that was a lot of fun. Definitely recommend checking out. Sugar Dunkerton defeated Marco Stunt. The crowd loves the heck out of Marco, just like they do Suge. Marco showed a lot of heart, but he couldn't do it. Suge pulled out the win and continues the win streak. After that, we had the 2-on-1 handicap match for the tag titles. Tankman just couldn't handle the numbers game, ended up losing the titles. And then Mance, hot as hell, comes out of the curtain, sprinting after Calvin Tankman. He beat the crap out of him all the way around the ring. When Mance starts swinging, he doesn't care what he's swinging at. See, we also had, speaking of Mance, Mance Warner had a match against one half of the Mason-Dixon line, Silas Mason. It was a battle. We'll just put it that way. They brawled all the way around the arena. Mance was not a happy man, and he took it out on Silas. We'll just put it that way. And, of course, the last match of the night, our main event, saw Aaron Williams and Jake Christ for the IWA Mid-South World Heavyweight Championship. Go ahead and get into what I got going on next week. Next week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, all 3 days next week, I will be at the IWA Arena. On Thursday, it's Fan Appreciation Night, $10 tickets. I don't think any matches have been announced yet, but I'm sure they will be in the next day or two. So keep an eye out for that. Friday, Prodigy Pro Wrestling presents King of Pain. The main event for that one is Isaiah and AR Fox. And then Saturday, IWA Mid-South is throwing a really big show. It's the Guardians of Hardcore. The main event actually features the CCW and GCW, two promotions up in the Northeast that are making waves, two rival promotions. It's the first time, it's the only place in America, really, that you can catch the CCW champion and the GCW champion going one-on-one. It's Ricky Shane Page and Nick Gage going one-on-one in a House of Horror death match. That match will be crazy. Hop on over to the IWA Mid-South page and check that out. And yeah, that's my week next week. So hope to see you guys at a show next week. Like I said, any feedback, please let me know. Appreciate you guys for listening.
You've heard him here on the Dave Dynasty Show as a guest and as host of the monthly Graham's Gallery episodes. And now you can hear his stories. You can own a copy of Confessions of a Big Time Wrestler, the audio book from Dr. Jerry Graham Jr., former multi-tag team champion in WWA and owner of Bruiser Bedlam. You can hear all of his encounters with the various wrestlers, places, and promotions he's worked as he tells about his colorful, long, and illustrious career. You can have your own copy for only $25, and that includes shipping and handling. It's very simple. Go on Facebook, look up Jerry Jaffe, Jaffe, send him a private message, and make arrangements to purchase a copy of Confessions of a Big Time Wrestler now. You will not regret this purchase.
And welcome back to the Dave Dynasty Show. I am your co-host, Ike Isaacs, and today we are joined with none other than Cody Hawk. How are we doing today?
Doing all right, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, not a problem at all. Happy to have you on here. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, first question, as always, where are you from, Cody?
Originally, I'm from a little town called Bellbrook, Ohio, which is sort of a suburb of Dayton, Ohio.
Very nice, very nice. So, what was it like growing up there and close to Dayton?
Well, I mean, when I was growing up, we didn't really go to Dayton ever. Where Bellbrook is a little farm town out in the middle of nowhere. Growing up a lot in town. Back then, we were one red light on the town. So it was pretty casual, laid back, and slow.
Well, hey, that's better than being hectic and all kinds of crazy stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
But so then, did you play any sports growing up? I know a lot of people who are in the wrestling business kind of have a sports background, but some don't. Did you play any sports?
I sure did. I played football pretty much from second grade till college. I wrestled through middle school and into high school, and was on the track team all through high school as well. So it's a pretty active kid.
No, right on. Hey, that's not a bad thing. Having a lot of sports background probably give you a pretty good predisposition for later wrestling. But so some people, they kind of start out young when they're wrestling fans. So what were your first memories of being a wrestling fan?
I mean, as a child, I was a super Hulk Hogan fan. And we used to get when I was a real youngster, 7, 8, 9 years old, we'd get on a Saturday morning, we would get NWA from like 11 to 12, and then we'd get WWF from 12 to 1. I remember sitting around on Saturday mornings with my dad watching wrestling, and back then I was a way bigger fan of NWA than I was WWF, but Hulk Hogan was my idol back then before I actually learned how to wrestle and learned what wrestling was all about. So, Four Horsemen and the Road Warriors and Magnum TA, those were the guys that I grew up watching and really being a big fan of.
No, absolutely. So definitely having that kind of era of wrestling, that was a pretty amazing era of wrestling, definitely to grow up with. But definitely there's sometimes a moment where you kind of know that wrestling is kind of what you want to do. So when was it that you went from being a fan to being someone who wanted to be a wrestler?
As a kid, you watch wrestling and you go, gosh, I really wish I could do that. I'm going to grow up to be a wrestler one day. But, before the advent of the internet and cable television and all that, becoming a wrestler, it was just a very foreign concept. There wasn't a wrestling school on every corner, and I had no idea, how do you go about doing that. So I can't say as a kid that I ever was like, I'm going to be a wrestler one day. As I got a little bit older and, into my late teens and early 20s, I was playing football, and when I got out of high school, I went on to play a little bit of college football, and quickly washed out of that because I was on the smaller end of size. I was just sitting around. I think I was 21 years old. I was sitting around with one of my in-laws, and Thanksgiving, was hanging out. We were watching Thursday Night Thunder, and I made a random comment. That's something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to be a wrestler. I just never knew how to be a wrestler. And said I was with my brother-in-law at the time. He said, "Oh, really? You want to do that? You'd like to do that?" Well, I happen to know of a place. I'm like, "Yeah, I do. Really? That's kind of odd." Yeah, I actually, I'm a manager. I had been a manager in the past. So I met up with him a week or two later, and we ventured down into Cincinnati and ended up at Les Thatcher's main event wrestling camp. And I sat and watched practice with guys that night, and it all clicked in my head. This is what I have to do. This is something I'm going to do. I have to. And 22 years later, here I am.
Definitely, and like I was actually the next thing I was going to jump into, you were trained by the great Les Thatcher. So, and like you mentioned, it's not like today where you can, Facebook a school and say, "Hey, I want to be a wrestler." So then, what was it like getting to train with Les and getting that experience? What was that all like?
Training with Les was a great experience. When I first started out there in '96, I had guys in my class like Shark Boy and Rory Fox and some other young guys, Cincinnati's Matt Stryker, and it was a real fun time, and it was really awesome learning the stuff. As the HWA, the promotion that was there, grew and got bigger, Les's hands became more full, so to speak, and he kind of backed away from the training a little bit, and some of the more veteran guys there kind of took over the training process. Les was still involved, and he was still there to tell us we were doing right or wrong, but after a year or two of solidly training with just him, and it was guys like Shark Boy and Chip Fairway and just Masters. Those were the veteran guys in the promotion at the time, and that's really where I started learning everything about how to actually be a true professional wrestler.
Absolutely. And so, of course, during that time, you start, working towards the ultimate goal, which is getting in the ring and getting your first match under your belt. But when obviously you trained, you did all that good stuff. But when was it that you had your first match? What year was that?
Well, I started training in February of 1996. 2 weeks after I started training, I started refereeing on shows and becoming a regular referee and started traveling with some guys. I was a referee for the next 2 years. Official match until August 1998. But I had already been, doing the referee gig for 2 years, so I was pretty comfortable in the ring by the time we actually got to being a wrestler. So.
No, absolutely, and definitely. Do you think you said you got pretty comfortable in the ring? So then, did being a referee kind of maybe give you an advantage before that first match? You think?
100%, and as a trainer nowadays, that's like a must for all my kids. A ginormous guy who was ridiculous as a referee. I kind of start all of my kids as referees, and so that's how I started, and I got to do some really awesome, things as a referee, and it really did help me. It made me comfortable just being in the ring with the guys and getting in front of the crowd. So, the first time you actually walk out as a wrestler, it's not such a foreign concept.
No, absolutely. That's actually a really good mindset. But so then you had your first match and you started working some more. But so when you worked and trained for HWA, as you had mentioned before, you mentioned all these great talents that you'd worked for. But tell us about the transition when HWA became a developmental group for WWE.
Well, actually, before WWE, HWA was a developmental for WCW. We were doing some stuff hand in hand with them, and it was a good time there. A little stressful. Then when WCW got bought out by WWE, and we got signed up with them, like literally overnight, we went from 20 local guys to nearly 100 guys just coming off of television. So it made things quite stressful and difficult and exciting too, but it was a pretty scary time.
No, absolutely. I definitely agree. Definitely during like a area of transition, I'm sure there was a lot of unknowns, but obviously made it through it. But eventually you would also go on to become the head trainer and then the owner of Heartland. But how does your mindset change from going from a talent to an owner?
Well, I had been running the training there for a few years. I had been the booker. I was writing the shows a little while there. So I was kind of already doing a lot of the jobs, so to speak, that the owner of a promotion would do. The only thing I really wasn't doing was handling the money. So it was kind of an easy transition. I had some partners too when we bought HWA out, so I wasn't stuck doing it all by myself. It wasn't as bad as you would think, but it wasn't easy either.
No, sure. I definitely understand. I don't think there's any easy thing that's worth doing in life, but eventually with your program, you guys did what was one of the first IPPVs in 2006, which was Cyberclash. How did that ID come about and then become a reality?
Well, I had a guy working for me. He was one of my wrestlers. He did a caveman gimmick. His name was Ooga Booga. His real name was Rick, and he was a computer IT kind of guy. And we were just tossing around some information one day at the school, and we were talking about it. And the internet was just starting to take off and stuff. And I had mentioned to him, hey, we're going to do this big show. Like, is there any way that we could put this show like up on our website or so that fans small, we could sell a arena. So we were like, is there some way that other people see this besides the people there? And he said, well, give me a few days and I'll see what I can do. And he ended up building a little server for it, a click button where if you wanted to buy pay the iPay-per-view, you bought it and it went to him, and then he would send you a code and you put the code in and bam, you get to view the thing. And to my knowledge, it was one of the very first iPay-per-views. Pretty cool thing.
No, yeah, absolutely. And like you said, that was kind of like the beginning of the internet. Obviously, it had been around for a minute, but I mean, in terms of how things were starting to grow, that was kind of one of the big upswings for the internet. So I'm sure that was a pretty big deal. I mean, I would consider it a pretty big deal, but definitely I didn't know that before interviewing you, so that's pretty cool. I got to give you props for that.
Yeah, you know, it was a roll of the dice. You know, we ended up getting about 300 buys off of that at $2 a pop. So, you know, a little bit of work actually ended up paying off quite well for us.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So then, with all that innovation and everything else that was going around, eventually you would end up forming Ego Pro Wrestling in Dayton, Ohio. Good old Dayton, as we had mentioned before, which would ultimately evolve into Rockstar Pro. But what was it like forming into a new company?
Well, you know, HWA was it was an amazing company, but it was an expensive company. We were doing good numbers and we were bringing in a lot of money, but we were also spending a lot of money. We had a building that was super high. Probably we were paying $2,500 a month rent for our space, and we were paying another $700-800 a month on electric to heat the place or keep the place cool in the summer. So it just, you know, eventually the finances ran dry, and we were had been in a contract with Les Thatcher buying the company from him, and we got to a point in place in time where we weren't going to be able to pay him what he was asking us to pay him month to month. So I had to pull the plug on HWA and just shut it down completely. When I did that, Les ended up repossessing everything that was there of the company, and he kept all the money too. So he got to win double big on that. He got to lose double big on that. So, you know, just heartbroken and upset, and you know, just like kind of wash my hands of promoting, owning, just doing all that. And, one of my wrestlers, he was like, you know, well, we can't let this go. It can't be over. It can't be done. And, you know, maybe a week or two after shutting down HWA, I get a knock on my front door, and it's a guy from High Spot there with a truck and trailer, and he's got a ring on the back of it. Told me that one of my boys bought this ring, and here it is. They're delivering it and dropping it off. Oh, wow, like, we're back up in business. I was come up with a name, so I tried to figure out, you know, a name for the company, and, you know, like, at that time, somebody had just kind of been doing an ask to me and saying that I had a big ego and stuff, so I was like, you know, we'll call this company Ego Pro. You know, that's really how Ego started and how it came about.
No, absolutely. And I mean, it's kind of an unfortunate story because, you know, you didn't want to stop it, you know, at first, but then it kind of turned into a good thing because, I mean, you see how Rockstar Pro is and how hot the company is. Like, but how do you feel now, kind of maybe looking back in retrospect, seeing the progression from HWA to Ego to Rockstar? How do you feel about that progression?
Well, I don't know. Let's make one thing for certain and clear right now. I absolutely have Rockstar Pro, and I have nothing for it at all. I took those guys that owned that company. They didn't know, you know, they knew nothing about wrestling at all. They were music promoters. They knew nothing about wrestling. I gave them knowledge. I gave them skill. I helped them open up Rockstar Pro. I used my contacts. I brought in my people. I brought in my equipment. Staffed the place. I built the arena. I designed everything. Got it all up and running. And then they pushed me out the door. So, you know, as far as they're concerned, they have a great product. They put out good shows. You know, from what I hear, I do not follow them, keep up with them at all. I do my own thing, completely separate them. You know, so that's kind of where all that is.
Nope, absolutely. I understand. So definitely, you know, obviously there's some ups and downs, I guess, in the wrestling world, but kind of to move on though, let's play a little bit of quick word association. Now I'm going to give you some of your trainees, some of the people that you worked with. I'll give you a name and you just talk a little bit about them. I got 4 here for you. First one is Shauna Reed.
Best female I've ever had a part in training. Has a bright future ahead of her as long as she can stay healthy. I think she's going to do well. I think she's going to make a lot of money.
Perfect. Eli Drake.
Tremendous talent, tremendous body, tremendous work ethic, great guy, a heck of an asset to have in any promotion.
Perfect. Sammy Callahan.
Again, tremendous talent, brilliant mind, excellent just about everything he does. Another guy that's an asset, a great asset for any company to have.
Perfect. And last but not least, Dean Ambrose, or probably when you knew him, I'm sure it was John Moxley.
Yep. John was actually my roommate when he lived back in the day. He was my roommate. But easily the best guy I ever trained, the smartest guy I ever trained when it came to wrestling, the most hungry guy when it came to wrestling. As a 16-year-old kid, he had more ambition and drive than guys who've been doing it for 10 years. As long as he wants to be a part of the wrestling business, he's going to make an astronomically large amount of money and pretty much do whatever he wants in life.
Yeah, that pretty much sums him up. I mean, and like you said, you kind of said it all right there. But so then, kind of move on a little bit more on the broader aspect of independent wrestling. Right now in general, independent wrestling is incredibly hot. I mean, it's wild. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger every day. In your opinion, what is the best and the worst part about being a part of independent wrestling?
The best part of it is it doesn't have the glam and the glitz and glitter of the big televised WWE products. The guys going out there and they're giving it 110%. They're doing whatever they can do to entertain the crowd, and not having to follow the rules of the WWE kind of place, or a television station, the rules and laws that go along with being on TV and that sort of thing. So the indie scene is definitely on fire right now. There are a lot of companies that are doing big numbers, drawing huge houses, having super entertaining shows, and I think it's tremendous. The flip side of that is there's freaking independent promotion on every corner. Every jackhole that can afford to buy a ring for a couple $1,000 can throw it up in any building and call themselves a wrestling promoter. And those guys, all they're doing is just bastardizing and making it hard for the good companies to keep succeeding.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree. I think I've talked about this with a couple different people, but I think I want to put that on a shirt. Any jackhole with a wrestling ring can call himself a promoter. So either you can put that on a shirt, or I'm putting that on a shirt. But that absolutely, man. But definitely, yeah, you're right. You're right, because there really is. If you think about it, there's like a wrestling promotion. I mean, I can think of about 800 like within a 20-mile radius of where I live. So, yeah, you're right.
When I started in 1996, there was HWA in Cincinnati, and there was NWF in Cincinnati. And HWA actually splintered off of NWF. Within a couple of years, there were some people that worked for us at HWA, didn't like the way things were being run there, didn't like their spot or position, so they moved across town and they opened their own promotion. So from 1996, fast forward to 2003, we went from being one company in Cincinnati to 7 companies in Cincinnati. And at this point, I don't even know how many companies are in and around this area.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's that way in just about every city.
Yeah, honestly, it really is. But It's unfortunate in some ways. It's like it's good because it's putting a lot of attention on independent wrestling, but it's also bad because you're diluting the product. You're taking really good wine and you're making it into water, which is kind of the reverse effect. But definitely a true statement about the companies as they are now. But kind of along the same lines, what advice would you give to aspiring wrestlers who might be listening about going into independent wrestling?
Firstly, don't go into it thinking you're going to make money, because chances of you making money are small. I'm not saying it's impossible, because there is money to be made if you can somehow climb your way out of, I like to call it indie hell, and make something of yourself. There's definitely money to be made there for some people, but that's such a long shot. It's 1 in 1,000, 1 in 2,000. Who knows what kind of chance? But it's slim and small. But if you're going to go into the wrestling business and it is truly in your heart and something you want to do, find a good school, find a trainer with a reputation that is good, somebody who's turned out quality students. Ask questions. If somebody tells you they're going to get you a job at WWE, run. They're lying to you. Don't just give your money freely to people to train you. Ask questions, find good training, find a good place, good promotion. Just because they have an awesome show doesn't mean the trainers are awesome. Just because they run have a good building and they do well on their weekly shows or their monthly shows doesn't mean their training program is great. Just do your research, do your homework, and you should be all right.
Perfect advice. Good advice all around. It's good advice in general. Do your research, but especially in this business, I think. But
there are too many people out there that are just willing to take money, teach you a wrist lock, and that's that. I can teach monkeys to give wrist locks. So. Another great T-shirt idea. I can teach monkeys how to do a wrist lock. But definitely, though, I mean, we've talked about quite a bit. I mean, we talked about different things about your career, coming up to now, of course. But one thing we like to ask everybody is, because a lot of people we talk about, they've appeared all over the place, but you specifically have appeared over some of the top promotions out there, and you've wrestled quite a few places. But in your eyes, what's the top highlight of your career up to this point, personally? Well, I mean, obviously, anytime you do anything for WWE and you get seen on a national level, that's a highlight. I don't know. I've literally wrestled in 42 of the 50 states. Wrestled a couple of different countries, and the list of people that I've wrestled is just amazingly long. I've wrestled in almost 3,500 matches at this point. I got to wrestle guys I watched on TV. I got to tag with guys that I watched on TV, guys that I idolized. I got to be in the ring with. To really pull one specific as the best memory, I'm not sure that I could do that. I've definitely got a grocery list of things that I would call top memories. Honestly, it's probably been, it would have been 2005. We did, by my promotion of HWA, did an angle with NWF in Cincinnati. It was a promotion versus promotion angle. At the time, their top guy was Chad Allegra, who is now Carl Anderson, and myself as the top guy in HWA. And we built a 6-month storyline, and we didn't smarten up any of the talent on either side of the fence. We didn't tell anybody what was going on. We didn't tell anybody that any of it was happening. And for a while, the fans were completely drawn in on it. Wrestlers were completely drawn in on it. When we actually had our blow-off matches and actually did things, They drew some of the biggest houses that they had ever drawn. We drew some of the biggest houses that we had ever drawn. The matches were always spectacular, and one big main blow-off match with me and Chad. Frank's right up there, I'd say, is maybe number 2 or number 3 favorite / best matches I've ever had. So that might be one absolute top things that I've loved about wrestling and memory-wise.
No, absolutely, and that's a fantastic memory. It's also really great because I like how you mentioned that you guys built a storyline, and that being one of your favorite memories, and like it ultimately leading up to that match between you and him. That's obviously a great memory, and it's good to hear that you guys are building a story. I think that's something else that wrestling lacks nowadays is a good story, but definitely we've kind of, like I said, we've covered quite a bit, and I know it's a really great memory highlight, but. Another thing we'd like to ask people as we wrap up is, what is one thing that some people or most people may not know about you?
That in another life I would have been an art teacher. That's what I went to school for, was to be a middle school art teacher. That never came to fruition. I ended up in wrestling before that ever happened, but Cody Hawk could be a middle school art teacher right now and not a professional wrestler.
Well, what a world would that have been? Yeah. Speaking of art, do you have a favorite artist?
I would have to say Salvador Dali is one of my favorites.
Salvador Dali is a fantastic artist. An artist for anyone to look up. His name's Leroy Naiman. He does sports art, and I believe he even has some art about boxing and wrestling and stuff. So, really cool guy. But sorry, side note, Isaac also likes art. But so as we kind of wrap up the interview, then where can people follow you? Obviously, social media, the wonderful world of the internet, any Facebook, Instagram?
You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com / I think it's wrestler Cody Hawk. Twitter is @Cody Effin Hawk. Instagram is the same, Cody Effin Hawk. I also have a website, cody-hawk.net. You can find out just about everything you need to know pertaining to me there on that website, and links to all the social media and everything is there as well.
Wonderful, and perfect. Well, Cody, I want to thank you so much for coming on here, talking with us, talking about all your memories with wrestling, all that good stuff. It's been an honor and a pleasure. But definitely thank you a lot for coming on here and just shooting the shit, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no worries, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Not a problem. Well, you guys heard it here. You know where to go follow Cody. You know where to go stalk him on social media. You know where his website is as well. But one more time, thank you, Cody, for coming on here. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and always support independent wrestling.
Come crack open a cold one and let Old Manser tell you a story.
King of Big Dog Style, Laird's and Light Beer, the king of the trailer court, your favorite wrestler of mine, me.
This is Warner's Wisdom with Mance Warner.
All right, people, here we go. Old Manser, King of Big Dog Style, Laird's and Light Beer, knee pad up, knee pad down, dramatic pause. Y'all know the whole deal. Big Doggy Cool. I go on and on and on and on and on and on. Dramatic pause, dramatic. You know it all. Old Manser right here. I'm going to keep this short and sweet this week. Here's the deal. Old Manser always but behind on the times. I don't know what's going on. I don't keep track of the government situation or anything like that. But Old Manser just found out today that the government is closed down, right? I think it may be getting reopened very, very soon, or what it may be. I don't know. Old Manser don't care. I don't know. I'm going to stop on here on the Dave Dynasty Show. Helen, quiet down now. Helen, that's Old Manser's cat. She gets all riled up. She likes them light beers too. Anytime I start drinking one, she jumps on me. She wants a light beer. Helen, just be quiet. Chill out over there. Okay. Old Manser, like I was saying, before I got on my tangent here, yelling at my cat, Old Manser was sitting out here, heard the government shut down. So I'm going to get some tips. I'm going to give a little Warner wisdom out here on the Dave Dynasty Show. the best part of the Dave Dynasty Show. Let me turn my hat around here before I start talking to y'all. I'm going to give you some tips, some word of wisdom out here for how the government can handle their business, stay open, and stay out of trouble, right? So, here we go. Real quick, real short, real sweet, to the point. I ain't going to keep y'all here long. Number one, they need to be drinking some more light beers out there in the Oval Office in the White House and these big meetings at the government. They come in there. If everyone walked in and everyone was handed a beautiful, crisp, cold, refreshing, tasty light beer, baby, right there, you done set the mood. Everyone gonna have a good time, right? You gonna sit down in this meeting, have some light beers, contain yourself, and it's gonna be all right, okay? Number one, have them light beers. Hundreds of light beers at the front door, and they walk in so they can sit down and figure out whatever the issue is and drink them light beers, right? Simple. Number two, it seems like everyone in the White House don't say really what they want to say. They just kind of beat around the bush and then they get mad at each other. There should be able to have, I guess what you could call, as the kids say, going 30, right? Going 30 means for 30 seconds, you can get a couple swings in, right? So, if someone has an issue, someone could then throw out going 30. They can offer it to each other. Hey, you don't like what I'm saying, I don't like what you're saying, let's go 30. And then there you go. So instead of having everything be political, and instead of having everyone have issues over everything, just go 30. You already got your light beers. Had a couple light beers. You don't like what someone said. Instead of trying to pass laws and ruin everything for everybody, two old timers in the White House could just go at it. Go 30, man. Settle your issues with each other, man, and leave everyone else to have their own business, right? Boom. There's number two. Number three, there should be a boom box sitting in these meetings out here, right? They should be playing some Leonard Skinner, some Guns N' Roses for sure. Axl Rose got to be up in there. Man, just bring Axl in the whole. If Guns N' Roses could get back together and not have no issues, the White House should be able to run very, very, very simple, very easy, right? So get everyone together, have them in there, play some music, some sweet tunes in the background. If someone starts having an issue, someone's upset, there's something going on, play some sweet tunes, have them light beers, go 30. It's cut and dry and simple right there. That's what needs to be done, man. You follow exactly what old Master got on here. Some may say, good Lord, Master, it's going to be chaos up in the White House. No. What I have implemented, I'll use the wrong word. I'm not implying nothing. I'm implementing a strategy for success. Old Master might have to run for office in a couple of years. I think that's coming up, ain't it? Everyone get a light beer, chill your bones out, listen to some Guns N' Roses. If there's an issue, go 30. And then that cut back on, we ain't gonna have no wars. You ain't gonna have no people, bitching and moaning. This should be illegal. That shouldn't be illegal. You don't like it. Go 30. And then let everyone else figure out what they're gonna do, man. Let people govern themselves. Okay, I'm going to keep it short. We had about 5 minutes. I'm going to get off here, get to my light beers. Helen, get off that. Yeah, why you want John? Man's going to have to get off here. I got to take care of this cat. This cat's getting wild out here, jumping on everything. I think it's wild. It's a wild cat out here. It's going to be all right. It likes light beers. I like light beers. This cat's, look at it go. Crazy. You're insane. Helen, you got it. Chill out. The next one I'm going to do on here is How to Raise a Cat by Old Messer. I may film that as like a documentary or something, right? Old Messer, Helen, don't you look at me like you going to come at me like that. Okay, Old Messer, I'll get off here. Y'all be safe. Have a good week. Have a good time. Ain't going to be as good as Old Messer's, but who can? It is what it is now. All right. Enjoy them light beers. Be safe. Government, closed, open. I don't know. It don't matter no more, man. Y'all just have a good time. Be safe. Don't drink and drive. Don't be a dummy. Old Messer getting off here, y'all.
And welcome back to the Dave Dynasty Show. I am Dave Dynasty, and this is wrapping up this week's episode. We had the new segment, The Official's Decision, with referee Manbun. Glad to have him into the family, and the crew here on the Dave Dynasty Show. Going to be a lot of good stuff coming from him. We had that great interview with Cody Hawk, legendary Midwest wrestler, and probably, no disrespect, but probably even more legendary as a trainer and the things he's accomplished. One of the great minds and the great talents out of the Midwest, out of Ohio. And then, of course, we had your weekly dose of wisdom from Mance Warner. Always entertaining. Thanks to all those guys for being on the show today, contributing to the cause, the movement we call the Midwest Express, designed to get more attention and eyes, ears, etc. here on Midwest Wrestling Past and Present. We thank you for joining us, and we will be back next week with another episode, another of all the segments, just another, another whatever edition, chock full of Midwest professional wrestling. This is the Dave Dynasty Show. Thank you for joining us. Until next week, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.